Real talk about real life. Spiritual maturity. Faith. Leadership. Growth. Welcome to Life Beyond Sunday podcast.
Hello, guys.
What's up?
How are you?
Doing
Good.
well.
I feel like it starts off funny every time.
I know.
Hello, guys.
I don't know how to I don't know, do I say hi to them? Do I say
Hey,
hi to
everybody.
you?
Welcome back to
Hey,
Life
guys.
Beyond Sunday. So good to see you.
That's good.
That's a
Why didn't
way
you teach
better-
me that before we started? You had to teach it to me on air so everybody could watch. It's
Yep.
okay. Mentorship, guys. We talked about it. This is what it looks like. Welcome to Life Beyond Sunday.
Talk to them. I'm just kidding.
That's my camera.
Okay.
All right, we'll train more later for the next episode. So today we're going to be tackling a topic. We're going to be talking a little bit about infertility. And I know that that's something that you guys have gone through your journey.
Yeah.
And so I just want to thank you guys for your vulnerability in
Yeah.
that. And just to give a little bit of context, a report published in 2023 by the World Health Organization estimated that about 17.5% of adults, so roughly 1 in 6 adults worldwide, experience infertility.
I feel like it's higher than that.
1 in 6 sounds like a lot to me, so I don't know.
Okay.
I thought it was high too.
Who is always right?
Yeah, the Who. They got everything right, didn't they?
That's
Okay, let's not
another-
get
Okay, that's
started.
another podcast.
That's another podcast.
Actually, they just came out and said
Okay.
they were wrong on some things that happened in 2020, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Oh, boy.
Shayla's like moving on. Okay, so, but before we dive into this topic, so yeah, 17.5%. So it's something that a lot of people experience. So you either have experienced it yourself, or chances are you know somebody.
somebody. Right.
No doubt.
So we're gonna tackle this topic. But first, I want to start with something a little bit fun. Okay, so we're going to pick a couple baby names. I'm gonna throw some out there, and you guys have to tell me if this is an acceptable baby name for yourselves, like if you would use it, or if it's like if you're gonna veto it.
This
Okay.
might offend somebody. What if somebody's listening and their
can't
kids
offend
name
it.
this
What-
and we're like, no,
It's based on our opinion,
absolutely
though.
not.
It's
our
Kelly,
opinion.
you want to name your kid Kelly?
I know that's a veto.
kidding.
Like that's
100%.
you cannot get
Okay.
offended. Okay, all right. If they get offended, we have to do an episode on getting offended.
On how to be unoffendable.
Unoffendable.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. First name, Remy.
I know somebody named. I can't answer.
Would you name
No,
your kid Remy?
I would not name my child Remy.
Okay.
You have to play along.
Pleading the fifth. Go ahead.
It's probably like her nephew or something. Sophia.
I know somebody named Sophia.
Shayla, nobody's gonna get upset.
I
would
like
not, I would not
Sophia.
name my daughter Sophia, though.
That's cute.
Okay, so we got one. Scout.
Oh, Scout's a cool name.
I know somebody
I would
named
name
Scout.
somebody. I would name my
You
kid
know
Scout.
too many people. Scout. He likes
Yeah,
Scout. Do you
Scout's
like Scout?
cool.
Okay.
I like it's unique.
So Shayla likes Scout, which means the other two where she said she didn't like, those were vetoes. Okay. Savannah.
I know somebody.
I know
that's
somebody
cute.
named Savannah, but that
And
doesn't
she's
mean
adorable.
No, I wouldn't
know.
name my child Savannah.
Would you name your daughter Savannah?
Probably not.
Okay. Noah.
No.
You know someone named Noah. Okay. You just gotta.
Okay, keep going.
Ella.
No.
Okay. What?
So, TJ and I-
do you
let me-
have
let me tell you a
what would
story.
you name your child?
So TJ is a junior, right?
Okay.
Timothy James McCormick Jr. And so we were like, you know what? When we have kids, we're gonna have a boy, and his name's gonna be Timothy James McCormick III, and we're gonna call him Trip, like triple.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool nickname.
Yeah, so
the
here's-
name, but the nickname.
The nickname
Right.
is my name. I'm named after my dad, and so they didn't call me Tim. They called me TJ, and I loved having a nickname, and so I thought, how cool would that be for our son to be called Trip?
That would be a cool. That would be a cool name. I'm on
Yeah.
board with that. So
Okay.
Trip would be okay. And if you had a girl,
Well,
You know, I always loved the name. So have you ever seen, what's the movie with the football
The Blind
player?
Side.
Yeah, The Blind Side. And the daughter's name is Collins.
Okay.
I thought that was such a cool name because it's like universal.
yes.
yeah,
I like Collins.
Yeah.
Do you like Collins?
I did.
Okay. All right.
Well,
There you
I
go.
also want to name, if we had a daughter, her name to be Mercedes.
No, hard no.
That would be.
Thank you,
that
Lord,
would-
for rescuing
You know
us.
what? That would have like she would introduce herself, and that'd be like, oh, that's TJ's kid. They would know right away.
I just thought it's a cool name for a girl.
Yeah.
Let's get
I'm
to
more
the
of a Collins-
content.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Well, I had fun, even though Shayla pleaded the fifth on every single name I brought.
I just feel bad.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's not right for the other person that named
Right,
their
right.
child
See,
that.
here's the thing.
Exactly.
I name my kids. I don't care.
Why
what
are we
people think.
continuing on
Okay,
this?
I'm sorry. All right. Shayla's always here to reel us in. Okay, so let me ask you this: did you guys want to have kids in the beginning of your marriage, or was it something that you guys were like, let's see what happens, or were you like, no, I want to have children?
No, we absolutely
Yeah.
wanted to have kids.
We were planning on having kids.
Yeah.
We bought a house based on, we've got a bedroom from them and
Yep.
them, and then we've got
We
a guest
bought a
room.
house. We painted the rooms,
Like we decorated them
like
for a
everything.
boy and girl. I mean, we
It
had
was
it all set up.
definitely in the plan.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you both were people who were like, we're gonna build a family.
Oh,
Were we
yeah.
gonna have 2? Were we gonna have 9?
Oh, not 9.
No, 2. I think two was kind of.
We'd start with 2 and then kind of figure it out
later.
from there.
No, I think we were pretty much set on 2. Shayla goes from a big family. I'm like an only child.
I
so
didn't want a big, huge
Yeah.
family.
They're expensive.
So what was it like when you guys got married, you guys painted your room, you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna populate now. What was that like when you started to realize
We are going to be fruitful and multiply
there
according
you go.
to
Yeah.
You're like, we're gonna
Genesis.
do
Yes.
what the Lord commanded.
Yes.
What was that like when how long did it take for you guys to realize like, okay, well, something's going on here and maybe this isn't going in? I mean, TJ was enjoying the practicing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So actively trying was probably like a year.
Well,
Wouldn't
I
it?
mean, we got married at 21, so we waited a few years before we were like, hey, let's have kids.
Yeah.
Like we knew we wanted to enjoy.
So maybe
some
it was
life
like the
and-
3rd or 4th year.
Yeah, I think it was about year 3.5. We decided like, okay, let's start trying.
Yeah. And then probably about a year into that,
A year and a half. something
year and a
like
half, we were like, something's not right. Like, I mean, if you've walked through infertility, you're trying, you're making all this effort. So every single month, it's like this big letdown, like discouragement, like, didn't
that.
work
And you're
again.
like on calendars, you're like, oh, it's that time. I'm ovulating. Let's right now. Like it's all
Yeah.
that's like it actually isn't enjoyable.
Takes the fun out of everything.
Stressful.
Yeah, it's
Very
very
stressful.
stressful.
Yeah. And what is that like when you're going through that and you're like let down, and what does that feel like, and how does that affect your relationship? Is it like
So long ago for us, but I think there's a disappointment
Yeah.
aspect, particularly like for us to have a good foundation of faith. And like, I'll speak for me personally. I was super discouraged and disappointed just in God, of just going, God, what? Like, I feel like I'm living my life in the right way. I feel like I'm honoring you in everything that I do and how I live. Like, why? Why not me? And I'm looking around and, there was some other people in my family that weren't living their life correctly, had gotten pregnant multiple times with different people, with, whatever. And I'm like, how can this be happening for them? And it doesn't feel like they're living their life, in a manner but it's not happening for me. Mm-hmm. And there's like this just frustration and this disappointment, I think that happened. And, I think really we were walking that together a little bit. You can talk from your perspective. I don't know.
I think from my perspective, it was harder watching you, when, that time of the month would come and you'd be like, oh, I'm not,
Yeah.
it was like constant disappointment, and then you being just overwhelmed. And as a guy, like you don't have any answers. I didn't have any answers. So it's like, I don't know what to do. We'll try again next month,
Well, and it's probably different for a woman and a man, because the woman is like going to be the one to carry that baby. And a lot of times you're anticipating like, oh, what's pregnancy going to be like? What's, all of those types of things. And so I think it probably is very different for a girl than it is a guy. And a guy just kind of feels like helpless.
Yeah.
And you're
I can contribute in this way.
And you're also the one to give the news, right? Like, like when when
Right.
it's supposed to happen.
Right.
And so,
Right.
And so when you guys realized this wasn't happening, I'm assuming you went to like go look for some medical assistance. What was that journey? What was that like?
Yeah.
So, we're having a hard time. Okay, let's go get some help.
Yeah. So we ended up going and just to find out, like, okay, let's get tested, both TJ and myself, and just be like, is there anything, what is causing this? Or is there something that is causing us not to get pregnant? And so we both went to the doctor and had testing done. And the result of that testing ended up that the infertility actually lied with TJ. And I remember we sat down with that doctor after we had both gone through testing. And I think we had already gotten my testing back, and we were sitting down with the doctor on your results. And I remember that doctor having like zero compassion.
No, that was after we'd gotten the results. Then I went to go do a surgery to see, like, for them to like really find out like what was going on. And it was after that surgery that we went and sat down with that doctor.
Yeah. And I remember that doctor just sitting down and basically looking at both of us and just going, okay, guys, we got the results back. You basically have a 0% chance you will ever have children together. And we're like,
Wow, talk about bedside manner.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Basically, our hopes and our dreams, they're just gone now. Thank you so much.
Well, what's interesting is before we went into that meeting with that doctor, we were sitting in our car outside of his offices, and we said, hey, no matter what the results are, no matter what the answer is, hey, we're going to choose to worship God.
Yeah.
And I remember, going in there hopeful and just like walking
An
out.
expectation. Yeah.
After the, like, I don't remember his last name. His first name was Dr. Timothy something. So I was like, I hate that guy. And I remember walking out, sitting down in the car, and just, we were both in shock.
Uh-huh.
And
just kind of looked at each other and started bawling.
Look at each other and just tears going down the face and going, okay.
We said we were going to worship.
We said we were going to worship, and we put on some worship music from a CD in our car. That's how long ago it was. We still had CDs.
This was a while ago.
This was a while ago. Kind of dating ourselves here. And we were devastated. And along the way, we were like, man, we should. I remember we called Randy and Amy,
our pastors.
And he said, man, we just got the worst news. And I remember going over to their house. They're like, come right over. And we sat in their bedroom and we just cried together.
I think in that moment, like I so appreciated their response to that, because I think a lot of people try to figure out, what am I supposed to say, or how am I supposed to respond to somebody that's walking through something like this? No matter whether it's whether it's anything, somebody has walked through a tragedy or a disappointment. It's like, what do I say? And their response was just to sit and cry with us. They didn't try to explain it. They didn't try to encourage us. They just empathized.
They just hurt with us.
And that was so I will never forget that,
Yeah, because a lot of times from somebody that's on the other side, we don't know how to react, right? Because, speaking from my own experience, I have 2 kids,
right?
That I had biologically, and so it's not a struggle that I can empathize, but I can't relate to. And so a lot of times when somebody's going through that, we don't know how to react, and sometimes our response is, oh, let me try to fix it. Yeah. And that's not what people need.
You can't. Yeah.
There was no fix in that moment other than like,
I'm just going to be here for you.
I'm just going to be in pain with you because I see you're in pain. I see you're hurting. And while I might not understand, I can hurt with you. And I think there's something about, it's almost like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Hey, we're just in the fire together. Yeah. And if we're in the fire together, Jesus will meet us here. He might not do what we think we believe God can, we believe he will, but even if he doesn't, we're going to serve the Lord kind of idea. And I think that's a great response to those tragic moments in life.
Yeah. And how did this affect your relationship? So a lot of couples go through this, right? And was there resentment? Did you guys bond over it? Was it like how did that affect your marriage? How did you guys walk through that? Because I do think a lot of couples go through this, right? And so how do you is there a blame game, or what happened there?
If there's anybody to blame, it would be me. I was the problem, but I don't think we ever pointed fingers.
TJ and I are unique in the fact, I feel like our foundation of faith is very stable. And so I think in that moment, I had empathy for TJ. I almost felt bad for TJ because I knew that he felt bad, that he felt like he couldn't give me what I want. And so I think there was empathy on both sides of just going, I feel bad for you and you feel bad for me. And really the reality was we weren't going to be able to change anything. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know that it affected our relationship at all. Just except for the fact that we had to move forward. Like we had to let go of a dream in a way.
Yeah.
And there were still aspects that we were standing in faith. Like, this is what the doctor said, but God, I believe that you can do a miracle. And I think that's where we walked through almost that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And we had this, like, I believe you can. I believe you will. But God, even if you don't ever do a miracle in this situation in our life, like, we are going to serve you. We're going to trust you anyways. And we believed for years that God would do a miracle, you know? Now people come up to me and like, Shayla, can I pray for you? Like, for God just to do a miracle and you guys have kids? I'm like, absolutely not. Nope.
You're like, that ship has sailed.
I'm about 45 years old. This would be a geriatric pregnancy and nope.
I'm like, can you imagine if we had a kid right now? We'd be like 63 before we could kick them out of the house.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't know that we're ready for that kind of responsibility.
I know. You're like, no, please don't pray for me. Don't lay hands.
Yeah. God, don't do a miracle.
Well, it's funny because, you know, in the church world, there's lots of people that think they're prophetic, and they would hear, oh, they don't have kids, and they would always go and they start praying for like, this is how I know people are false prophets. They'd be praying that Shayla's womb would be opened up, and I'd be like, you're praying for the wrong person. Her womb's good.
Her womb is
I'm
open.
the dude that's broken. And so you know, it's just a funny thing. But you know, people that are well intentioned but aren't in tune.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we learned in that because we believed for a long time that God was going to miraculously like
heal
us, and we're going to pregnancy, and we're going to be able to say, look at what God did. And
he didn't.
And to pray and believe for that not to happen, I can understand how that would shake a lot of people's faith. And I mean, I think that there were seasons where for us, it was super frustrating because we were like, man, we're serving you. We've given our life.
You're so faithful.
We've given everything to follow you, and
you're just not doing this.
You're not doing this. And, you know, I can see how that could shake people's faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What would you say to somebody who, you know, I think maybe now you both are maybe on the other side, but somebody who's like going to baby shower after baby shower and Father's Day after Father's Day, and they're walking through this journey and it's not happening. And I think there is like a general, you know, frustration that can set in with God. And I think you guys handled that very well in the marriage, but I think that a lot of times that can cause tension. So what would you tell? First of all, how did you feel walking through that season, right? I'm already not a baby shower fan. I can't even imagine when I'm like trying to conceive and now, right?
Yeah.
So what was it? First, how was that like? And second, what would you say?
Yeah, but here's my struggle with that, because I don't know that I necessarily had those feelings, because just because something hasn't happened for me doesn't mean I can't celebrate something great happening for somebody else. And I think that if I'm that bitter, then I've got way deeper issues.
Yeah.
And so when other people, I was so excited. I remember when people would come to us and be like, "Oh, you're never gonna believe what that is." You know, I was genuinely excited because I wanted to experience those things too. Why couldn't I have that same excitement for them? And why couldn't I be joyful in what God was doing in their life that had nothing to do with what God was doing in my life? And I think that if you're struggling with that, you need to go, what is the brokenness inside of me that needs to be healed? Because what's happening in their life has really nothing to do with yours.
Well, I do think just naturally as people, there is a discouragement or disappointment or anything like that. And Proverbs says hope deferred makes the heart sick, right? Like there are things that cause us to grieve or be like, ugh, I want what they have. You know, I think regardless of if it's infertility, if it's singleness, you know, there's lots of people that are single that like, oh my gosh, my friend's getting engaged and they're younger than I am and I've been waiting for this long, you know, and there's this like, but I want that too. You know, there's this desire. But I think it goes back to the idea of like take captive every thought and kind of make it obedient. For me, I had to shift my perspective to be more like TJ's, like, man, this is a good thing in this person's life. And I want to be able to celebrate with them and, you know, be excited for them. And so I think in life in general, we do hard things. Like we all have something in our life that hasn't happened the way that we thought it would, or somebody else has something that we don't have. And so it's trying to look around and number one, just see the things that I can be grateful for and the things that God has done. But then constantly figure out how to shift my perspective, because the reality is it was hard. It was hard. Mm-hmm. And I had to do hard things in that season, and my heart was broken and it was difficult, but I had to choose to be happy for that other person that God was blessing them in their life. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think there's any easy way to do it except make a choice, mm-hmm. you know?
And so you guys go through this for how long before you decide to foster? Mm-hmm. And what propelled that decision?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were married.
See, 2007 is when we found out we couldn't have kids. So
we had been married 7 years.
7 years. It was December of 2007 that we got that.
Oh man, right around the holidays.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Word of advice, don't do it around the holidays.
And then it was 2018 that we started fostering. Yeah. So it was a little over 10 years
10
later.
Years later.
What did those 10 years, I mean, during those 10 years, you guys are starting a church, you guys are holding on in faith.
We started the church, we were
birthed
still
Coastal.
believing.
Yeah, we
birthed Coastal.
We birthed Coastal.
Yeah.
We say we have a lot of kids.
Yeah,
they're adult kids, and they make bigger
kids.
messes that you have to clean up.
And their diapers are nasty.
So you guys are going through these 10 years. You guys are coming to South Florida, you know, planning Coastal. I'm assuming waiting for a miracle.
No, we're still believing God for a miracle.
TJ's practicing.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the practices.
Shayla's practicing too.
It
wasn't just me. Yeah, Don't just blame me.
So you guys are both practicing, and then you're like, okay,
It wasn't we're both like, okay, let's go.
So I was reading my Bible, and there is a verse in the Bible that talks about, I can't, like, if you see somebody that is cold, you know, basically,
Coat.
and then you have a coat to give them your coat. Don't just walk away and be like, be warm and filled. Like, I'll pray for you in Jesus' name when I have what I need to be able to fulfill that need. Mm-hmm. Essentially, I forget what verse it is, but essentially that's what it says. And when when I was reading that, I felt like God said, Shayla, you have a room in your house. You have room in your heart. Like you have room, you have space. You know that there's a gap. You know that there's these kids that, you know, need a home. So don't just be like, God bless you, be warm and filled. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll pray for you to find a home. You have one. And I was like, oh, geez. Like, so I went to TJ and I was like, TJ, I think like God's stirring something in my heart. Will you pray about this? You know, and it was about foster care. I said, will you take some time and pray about this? And he prayed about it. And I think we said, well, let's take the classes, you know, let's start there. It doesn't hurt to take the classes. So we took the classes and, you know.
It's brutal. It's like 3 Saturdays of 8 hours of the same information every single Saturday.
Yeah. And so I don't know how far you want me to go in this.
No, we're gonna go into like the foster care process, but you guys, I want to go through the decision to foster, and then they call you. How does that work? Do they just call you and they're like, "Hey, we have a baby"?
Yeah, I'll let TJ tell that part.
It's like,
Yeah.
like your package
So we get
arrived
certified and we say like, okay, we're willing to foster a kid from like 0 to 2.
Yeah.
So that's the like
That's kind of
age difference. We don't care, boy, girl, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I think we literally got our license maybe like 2 days
before we got a placement.
We're getting ready to do a connect group at our house. We have a Mary connect group at our house. We're literally setting out food, drinks, getting the video ready to go because it was a video on Marriage on the Rock by Jimmy Evans. And we're getting everything ready. And we get a phone call of like, hey, we have this baby just coming out of the hospital.
5 days old.
5 days old, drug baby.
Like his mom, when he was born, he had cocaine, marijuana, opiates all in his system, had to go through withdrawals.
Yeah.
Mom was homeless.
Dad was homeless.
Didn't have any prenatal care. Did drugs the entire pregnancy.
Yeah. And so they're like, will you take him? And we're like, sure. They're like, okay, you got to go and pick him up right now. And so I'm like, oh crap. I went and find the car seat. I run out to my truck. I'm trying to put the car seat in a truck. I've never put a car seat in.
those things are hard. They should make those things easier.
Literally,
people are showing up to our Connect
people
group.
are showing up to our Connect group. I see a couple and I'm like, hey, you all have kids, right? And they're like, yeah. I was like, come here. Can you put this car seat in my truck? Because I have no idea how to do it.
Are you like, what's going through your mind at this? Like, are you like sweat? Are you like,
we're
We're freaking out. We have. They're like
you don't know if you're getting you didn't know. Like I could get a 2-year-old, but now I'm getting a 5-day-old. Like there's a whole different set of needs for a 2-year-old and a 5-day-old baby.
Yeah.
Like I don't have clothes for this kid. I don't nothing. I don't have diapers. I don't have formula. I don't have because you don't know.
Yeah.
And so the couples are arriving. We're like, hey guys, we're so excited for tonight. Hit play on the video. We got to go pick up a kid. And we literally jump in my truck and we leave. And we left all these people. There's probably like 20 something people at our house for this group. And we just left them. And
is the car silent? Are you guys like what?
I think we were like a little giddy, probably.
We're like, they're like, we're about to get a kid. What are we gonna do? I remember we showed up to 4 kids. No, we actually.
It was
what is the name?
A shelter.
A shelter.
Yeah.
And we walk in. They're like, can we see your IDs? They take some copies of our IDs. They come in and they hand us this baby, and they're like, okay. We're like, what do we do? Like, how much do they eat?
I showed you my ID and you gave me a baby.
Yeah. We're like, how much do we feed it? Like, we don't know anything. They're like, here's some.
Are you sending someone with the baby to help? Are you sending a manual? Nothing. They just hand you a child and they're like, there you go.
Yes, literally.
Should we pick up the story later?
Yeah, okay. Shayla's worried about time. It's good. We gotta reel her in.
Listen, you gotta leave people hanging, right?
Okay, this is a good point to leave people hanging.
You'll have to tune in next week to hear the end of the story.
Shayla should be in my seat. She does this really well. Okay. All right, guys, you have to tune in next week to hear the rest of the story. Mm-hmm. All right. See you next week.
See ya.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Life Beyond Sunday this week. If you wouldn't mind taking a second to subscribe, like, comment in the section below. And I can't wait to see you next week.